Welcome to Two No Stories. Here, we reveal shocking tales of betrayal and deception, where secrets unfold and karma strikes back. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Your support keeps us going and helps bring even more exciting tales to life. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. The memory of the day I met Charlie lingers vividly, as though it occurred just yesterday. It happened entirely by coincidence. He sat in the coffee shop, engrossed in a book, and I found myself drawn to him. There was an undeniable allure to his presence. I took a seat opposite him, initiated a dialogue, and we instantly connected. We traded numbers, and the rest became a story for the ages. It seemed as though fate had woven a tapestry of events, all culminating in that singular instant. I recall sharing with my closest friend that I had encountered the one. And it felt like love at first sight, at least from my perspective. After 6 months of dating, we decided to move in together. And that was when everything truly clicked. We took our time with marriage, though my parents were quite enthusiastic about us moving forward. They've consistently adhered to tradition, and I understood their motivations for wanting us to tie the knot sooner rather than later. Indeed, we did. Our wedding was quite grand, primarily funded by my parents, while his parents generously took care of the bar and the honeymoon. It was truly a dream. The joy surrounding us was palpable, and the day exceeded all our expectations. Charlie and I have always shared a strong bond. Our connection has been effortless, brimming with joy, affection, and shared admiration. He treats me with utmost respect, and I strive to reciprocate that sentiment. There exists a genuine, seamless connection between us, one that seems destined to endure through time. Our bond has deepened, and we show our affection through little gestures each day, from a heartfelt message to the warmth of intertwined fingers in public, or simply sharing moments and discussing our day. I have never felt more valued. However, 2 months ago, everything shifted. I'm not sure what possessed me, but I committed the gravest error of my existence. It began quite harmlessly, merely a bit of playful banter with a coworker. He was a familiar presence in my life, and we had always shared a good rapport. Yet on that day, a change occurred, and suddenly we found ourselves caught in an unexpected turn of events. It occurred just one time, and I instantly sensed the burden of my choices. I felt an overwhelming urge to rush home and share everything with Charlie. Yet I held back. The pain reflected in his eyes was too much for me to endure. I chose to bury the guilt deep within, attempting to move forward as if all was well. Yet, whenever Charlie shows me kindness, an intense wave of guilt washes over me. As I gaze at him, a wave of regret washes over me, and I ponder how I could have possibly betrayed him in such a way. I've been doing everything possible to atone for it. I bestow upon him an abundance of affection, perhaps even beyond what is appropriate. I constantly remind myself that if my feelings for him are this deep, I have the power to set things straight. Yet, it seems insufficient. There are moments when I find myself overly enthusiastic to accommodate, showering him with additional attention, wishing it could mend the trust that was once broken. Every time my dad spots us in public, he cracks a joke about us needing a room. Charlie and I frequently find ourselves immersed in our own private universe, exchanging tender kisses and clasping hands, making it difficult to recall my past actions. Yet again, the guilt seeps in, an unyielding echo of my error. I wonder if I will ever feel worthy of his love again. I find myself compelled to clarify the situation with Trevor, even if it's not something I take pride in. It all began when I was chosen for a unique assignment team at work. It was a remarkable opportunity, and I felt a surge of enthusiasm at the prospect of playing a part in a project that held such significance for the company and its stakeholders. Yet, the weight of expectation was overwhelming. The deadlines loomed, the expectations soared, and the pressure was palpable for everyone involved. A member of our team experienced a total nervous breakdown. The experience was difficult to endure, amplifying the intensity of the entire situation. Our work was mainly conducted remotely, yet we convened in person on 3 occasions throughout the project. The remote work was manageable and seemed productive, yet the mounting stress began to weigh heavily on me. As the project approached its conclusion, a problem arose with the component I was responsible for. necessitating a trip to one of the regional offices to resolve it. Initially, it was planned for 3 of us to attend, but at the 11th hour, the woman who experienced the breakdown had to withdraw. Ultimately, it was just Trevor and me, the colleague I had been collaborating with the most, who went to take care of everything. The whole week passed in a haze. We toiled relentlessly, beginning at 7 a.m. and frequently wrapping up well past 10 p.m. It seemed as though we hardly had a moment to catch our breath. We spent our time in the office, snacking on whatever we could find in between our work. There were times when I felt on the verge of collapse, much like the woman on our team, and I found myself pondering, I can't sustain this for much longer. Yet Trevor remained a constant presence, laboring just as diligently, persevering alongside me. We would share fleeting looks above our laptops during tough moments, silently recognizing the challenges we faced, and that mutual understanding brought a sense of solace. By Wednesday afternoon, after what seemed like an endless stretch of time, we ultimately resolved the issue. The sense of relief was immense, as if a colossal burden had been removed from my shoulders. To mark the occasion, Trevor proposed that we dine at a lovely restaurant. After everything we had been through, a nice dinner felt like the ideal way to relax and recharge. Moments to myself were a rarity during those intense days, and I figured a little indulgence might be just what I needed. We indulged in a couple of drinks, perhaps more than just a couple. The drink relaxed us, making everything seem more buoyant, as if we had finally deserved this moment of relief. The dialogue unfolded effortlessly, blending professional discussions with casual exchanges about everyday life. Yet, with each sip, a stronger sense of entitlement washed over me. A break was well deserved. After the relentless pressure we had faced, I truly earned the right to indulge in some enjoyment. And perhaps, just perhaps, I believed this small dose of amusement wouldn't cause any harm. When we finally returned to the hotel, the evening felt transformed. Everything felt unclear, yet there was an undeniable connection between us. Something I hadn't anticipated but couldn't ignore. It happened on a whim, yet I couldn't shake the thought that it was merely a means to relax. A brief respite from the pressures of life. Before long, I found myself in his bed, engaging in intimacy with him. I simply sought an escape from the tension. What better way to relax and let go than through intimacy? It was unexpected. In that moment, I assured myself that I had earned it after all the effort I had put in. On the following night, Trevor and I did it again. The excitement was simply exhilarating. He wasn't larger or superior to my husband, yet sharing my bed with him was incredible. I found an exhilarating rush in the act of being unfaithful to my husband. The following morning after the evening with Trevor, an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. I had deceived. I let Charlie down, the one person I swore I would never harm. Trevor shared that sentiment. As soon as we opened our eyes, an undeniable realization washed over us. It had been a mistake. He was aware of my happy marriage, and I was conscious of his engagement. We had ventured into territory that was irrevocably altered. We exchanged a few words and reached a silent understanding to act as if it never occurred. We were acutely aware that if anyone discovered the truth, it would shatter everything we had built. It would not only tarnish our reputations, but it could also threaten our employment, particularly given that the incident occurred during a company-funded business trip. The stakes were exceedingly high. We chose to go our separate paths. There was no reason to maintain communication. The project had come to a close, and we resided on opposite ends of the country. The chance of our paths intertwining once more was slim, which allowed me to close the door on the past with a sense of ease. I was heading back to Charlie, but what words would I choose? How could I possibly meet his gaze after everything that had transpired? The weight of guilt clung to my chest, refusing to let go. As I touched down and spotted Charlie at the pickup zone, I made an effort to maintain my composure. His smile was broad, radiating excitement at my arrival, and it tugged at my heartstrings. I was powerless to resist. The tears began to fall before I even got to him. As I dashed toward him, an intense wave of emotions washed over me: relief, guilt, love, and I leapt into his embrace. Charlie caught me with ease, and I held onto him tightly, unable to hold back the tears. I pressed my lips to his repeatedly, yearning to bridge the distance I had unwittingly placed between us. to reclaim that closeness we once shared. We embraced so fiercely that the airport police officer tapping on the window went unnoticed. His signal for us to continue lost in our moment. He leaned back a bit and inquired, "What's the matter, babe?" His voice carried a deep sense of concern, and the worry in his eyes was unmistakable. I dried my tears, attempting to regain my composure. "I've been feeling overwhelmed by stress lately. I've felt your absence deeply. I'm unsure about what transpired. Seeing you made me completely fall apart." Charlie chose not to delve deeper. He simply nodded, his gaze gentle as he ran his fingers through my hair. "It's all right, Susan. I'm truly relieved that you're back. We will persevere." We shared the night, and in that instant, it seemed as though all was right with the world once more. I poured my heart into every effort, striving to show him the depth of my love. Oh, the experience was incredible. In my thoughts, I was entwined with my husband once more. He embraced me again, and as I kissed him and held him close, the guilt lingered, gnawing at my insides. I realized I could no longer maintain the facade that it was all just a dream. Ever since I returned from that trip, I've been making an effort to give Charlie more care and attention. I've been preparing his favorite dishes, organizing small surprises for him, and consistently expressing my love for him. It has felt completely effortless to express that affection to him, and he is clearly relishing it. He truly deserves it. He is worthy of every bit of special attention I can provide. And beyond, yet within, I'm crumbling to pieces. The burden of my own guilt feels like a heavy shroud, closing in around me. I find myself unable to shake off the thoughts of my actions. Each time he gazes at me with that tender, trusting look, it pierces my heart like a knife. The guilt consumes me, slowly dismantling my peace, and with each passing day, it intensifies. Rest eludes me. I am unable to eat. I've been attempting to concentrate on my tasks, yet my thoughts continually wander back to a singular idea. What if he discovers the truth? What if I lose him? And then there are the nightmares. Each night, I find myself lost in dreams of Charlie discovering the truth. At times, he stands before me, his eyes filled with sorrow. And then he turns, walking away without a glance back. At times, he simply observes me in silence, aware, yet choosing to remain quiet. I awaken drenched in cold sweat, my heart pounding, unable to dispel the haunting sensation that everything is closing in on me. Last week, Charlie and I made the decision to start a family. It was meant to be a time of celebration for us, a moment filled with anticipation. Yet all that occupies my mind is the feeling of unworthiness, the belief that I am not deserving of him or the privilege of being the mother of his child. He deserves someone far superior to me, someone who hasn't let him down in the most painful manner. This overwhelming guilt has taken over my ability to function. I long to be close to him, to embrace him, to cherish him, yet I can't shake the feeling of being an imposter. The affair is a secret shared only between Trevor and me, intensifying the difficulty of the situation. There's no one here to share my thoughts with. I find it difficult to communicate with my friends. I find it difficult to communicate with my family. They would never grasp it, and I could never endure the humiliation of voicing it aloud. My inner voice persistently nudges me, compelling me to come clean with Charlie. It's the sole path that allows me to escape the sensation of being overwhelmed. I understand that revealing the truth will shatter him. He will be heartbroken. The thought of his reaction when he learns the truth is beyond my comprehension. Once the truth is revealed, everything will change forever. After much contemplation and 3 insightful sessions with a wonderful therapist, I've ultimately decided to share the truth with Charlie. I understand that this will be extremely challenging for me and heartbreaking for him. Yet I have a strong sense that it is the right course of action. In anticipation of this discussion, I have crafted a detailed timeline of the affair. I can't say I'm proud, but it's something I've done, as it was merely a physical experience lasting under 24 hours and devoid of any emotional ties. I found it easy to remember the specifics without much effort. It occurred swiftly. In an instant, what once seemed ordinary was transformed into a reality where everything I understood lay in ruins. However, I must be truthful with Charlie. He has the right to understand precisely what transpired, regardless of the discomfort it may bring. My therapist has been truly remarkable during this journey. She has provided me with resources on assisting my partner in dealing with betrayal. particularly outlining the actions I should take and those I should avoid. I realize that when I share this with him, he might require some distance, and I've accepted that this is a typical response. Even though I'm aware that it's a common experience, it doesn't lessen the difficulty of coming to terms with it. If Charlie desires distance, it will be painful. However, I am prepared for it, and I understand that regardless of the outcome, I must honor his needs. I've pondered extensively on Charlie's potential reactions. He is a devoted, nurturing, and watchful individual. He has consistently stood by my side, offering unwavering support and deep understanding. Given this, I don't anticipate him responding with anger or desiring some time apart. Although I've mentally braced myself for that possibility, I believe he will feel pain instead. The possibility of his disappointment weighs heavily on me, and just considering it brings a deep ache to my heart. I never intend to bring him suffering, yet I understand that I must confront the repercussions of my actions. I intended to have a conversation with Charlie that Saturday morning, and I followed through with my plan. We had arrangements for that afternoon, but I ensured we would be together that morning so I could share my thoughts without any distractions. The evening prior, I had meticulously crafted every word I intended to express, rehearsing it in my thoughts countless times, assuring myself that I could manage the consequences. I prepared Charlie's favorite breakfast, fluffy pancakes drizzled with extra syrup, crispy bacon on the side, and a glass of fresh orange juice. Anything to restore a sense of normalcy to the morning before everything unraveled. We dined quietly for the majority of the meal, yet as the final morsel disappeared, I sensed the moment had arrived. "Charlie, we need to talk," I said, striving to maintain a steady tone while sensing the tremor in my voice. He gazed at me, his brow deeply furrowed. "What's happening?" I inhaled deeply, my heart racing. "Take action immediately, Susan. It is the correct course of action. I committed a significant error. A few months back, I made a mistake and betrayed your trust." His complexion drained of color, and he stood motionless, speechless. He simply gazed at me, his eyes open wide, as though he anticipated my conclusion, my reasoning, yet I found myself unable to articulate it. There existed no valid justification, no rationale, merely a series of poor choices cascading one after the other. I continued to speak, attempting to articulate all the regret and shame I felt. It was merely a matter of the body. It held no significance. Stress weighed heavily on me, and I find myself unsure of what transpired. "I'm so sorry, Charlie. It was never my intention to cause you pain. My feelings for you surpass everything else, and while I may not be worthy of your forgiveness, it's important for you to understand the truth." Thoughts surged through my mind. What have I just done? Following an extended, agonizing silence, he rose silently and made his way toward the office. I observed him, a sense of disarray enveloping me, and then, the door banged closed behind him. I remained motionless, utterly unsure of my next move. I rose to my feet and grasped the door handle. The door was secured tightly. I rapped gently, then with more urgency, calling out for him. "Charlie, if you would be so kind. I sincerely apologize. I would appreciate it if you could engage in conversation with me. I cherish you deeply. I can't bear the thought of losing you." Yet, silence enveloped me. Silence prevails. I could hear him shifting about within, yet there was no reply. I lingered by the door, straining to catch any sound, yearning for a response that never materialized. I ultimately surrendered. I returned to the living room, seeking to soothe my racing thoughts. I reached for my phone, just as I was preparing to send a message to my therapist. My mom called me. I paused for a moment, but ultimately decided to let it go to voicemail. My attention had to be on Charlie at this moment, not on a conversation with my mom. Moments later, a knock echoed through the door. I sprang to my feet, bewildered. Who might it be? I approached and glanced through the peephole, and my heart sank at the sight of my parents waiting on the other side. I opened the door, my mind reeling in disbelief. "What brings you both here?" My mom acted without a moment's pause. Her voice resonated with a blend of worry and an underlying emotion. A moment that sent a chill through me. "Charlie reached out to us." Her voice gentle. "He revealed all the details to us." I remained rooted in place, gazing at them, my thoughts a complete void. I found myself at a loss for words. How can I possibly convey this to them? How can I articulate this to myself? Is that really the case? Susan? Dad inquired, his tone slightly more assertive than normal. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Indeed, that is correct, I murmured amidst my tears. What could possibly possess you to act in that manner? Susan, what was on your mind? Mother let out a piercing scream. Just as I was about to reply, Charlie emerged from the office. He strolled by, hardly giving a nod to my existence. He faced my parents, his tone devoid of warmth and emotion. My thoughts aren't quite aligned at the moment. Would you mind taking her away for a bit? I require some distance. I moved closer, yearning for his gaze. Charlie, please, I murmured, my voice trembling. I deeply apologize. My love for you is immense. He remained silent, his gaze avoiding mine entirely. His gaze lingered on my parents. And for an instant, I sensed my own invisibility. I extended my arms, quivering with emotion, and embraced him firmly. He remained there, rigid and unyielding, as if I were an outsider. I released him after just a few moments. Mom, I don't know what to do anymore. I murmured, my voice barely a whisper. I messed it all up. My affection for him knows no bounds. Eventually, my mom assisted me in gathering a few items, and I realized what needed to be done. Giving Charlie the space he needed was a difficult choice, one that felt like it was ripping me apart inside. I approached the door and tapped gently. Charlie, I adore you, I confessed, my voice trembling. I will provide you with all the room you require. I will be visiting my parents' house for a bit. I'll be here whenever you're prepared to have a conversation. No reply was given. I didn't receive any word from him throughout the entire day. I made every effort to connect with him, calling, texting, exploring every avenue I could think of, but he remained unresponsive. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts as I pondered his inner turmoil. Yet an unsettling conviction lingered within me, that I had shattered him beyond repair. With each passing hour, the tension in my chest intensified. My mind was consumed with thoughts of his actions and his whereabouts. Was he all right? Did he have me on his mind at all? The uncertainty was too much for me to bear. I sent him one final message, my fingers trembling as I composed it. Charlie, I'm on my way over. I have concerns for your well-being. Moments later, a reply pinged, and I opened it eagerly, yearning for any indication that he was all right, that he was willing to engage in conversation. However, I noticed his message instead. I would appreciate some space. Thank you. I gazed at the screen, a wave of despair washing over me. That was the end. He was reluctant to engage in conversation. He was not interested in hearing from me. Sleep eluded me that night. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. The following morning, I awoke to discover my parents at the kitchen table, quietly enjoying their coffee. Their expressions were marked by sorrow. And for a brief moment, I believed it was solely due to the events involving Charlie and myself. Then my father began to speak. This morning, Charlie stopped by. He mentioned. My dad went on. No, we didn't see him, yet. We are aware that he was present. Your car was left in the driveway, filled with all of your belongings. I struggled to articulate my thoughts, my voice trembling. Could you clarify what you mean? What about my car? We noticed the vehicle packed with your belongings. Every single one. Garbage bags. Sue, it seems he has taken everything from you. I dashed outside before I could fully comprehend it. The SUV sat in the driveway, its back seats and trunk filled to the brim with black trash bags. My belongings, every single one, crammed away as if they were mere refuse. How was he able to do that? What could have prompted him to act this way? I must head over there. I must have a conversation with Charlie. Through my tears, I spoke, my voice barely rising above a whisper. My parents shared a glance, yet their eyes revealed a profound uncertainty about how to respond. They allowed me to continue. Upon arriving at the house, I found myself uncertain of what to anticipate. Upon my arrival, I knocked, yet silence greeted me. Silence prevails. I lingered for a moment, paralyzed, before I attempted to open the door. As I inserted my keys into the lock, I realized the internal deadbolts had been engaged. I was unable to gain entry. I recalled the garage, the familiar access code to the keypad I had always relied on. However, upon checking the app, I noticed that Charlie had revoked my access. In an instant, I found myself entirely shut out of my own residence. The panic grew stronger. What could have prompted him to act this way? What was happening within? I considered knocking on a neighbor's door. Yet it was early Sunday morning, and I hesitated to disrupt anyone's peace. Thus, I began messaging Charlie. The initial message conveyed a sense of tranquility, aiming to maintain a sense of respectfulness. Charlie, we really need to have a conversation. I understand your frustration, but shutting me out won't resolve anything. I pressed send, yearning for a reply. Silence. I made another attempt. My frustration is mounting. This is my home as well. It's unacceptable to exclude me like this. At that moment, my phone vibrated, and I noticed a message appearing on the screen. Go ahead, take your best shot. Those 2 words were everything I received. I devoted the whole day confined within my childhood room at my parents' house. I gazed at my phone, urging it to illuminate, yearning to catch a glimpse of Charlie's name. Anything that would indicate he was open to a conversation. That he hadn't vanished from my life for good. Yet, there was silence. I reached out to him repeatedly, each message dripping with urgency and longing. Charlie, I truly apologize. The depth of my regret for what transpired is beyond words. I would appreciate it if you could engage in conversation with me. Please take a moment to listen to what I have to say. I cherish you deeply. I pleaded. I lingered. Yet, there was nothing. As evening approached, I found myself unable to continue gazing at my phone. As dinner approached, I sent another text. I will provide you with all the room you require. I completely respect your need for time, but I would appreciate it if you could just let me know that you're all right. I have arrived. I cherish you deeply. The phone stayed quiet. On Monday morning, I reached out to my boss and requested 3 days off to address the situation. That morning, I returned to the house, and fortunately, I managed to gain entry. Charlie was absent, yet as I entered our bedroom, I found myself rooted in place, gazing at the remnants of our wedding album strewn across the floor. The cover lay in tatters, the edges of the pages frayed and torn, as though our memories had lost all significance. The images of us, beaming, joyful, in love, had vanished, torn apart as if they were mere scraps of paper. In the living room, the framed photos capturing our family gatherings, holidays, and vacations, the moments I believed we would hold dear forever, were absent. Only vacant frames lingered, strewn across the shelves. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to unleash my frustration, yet I remained frozen, numb, as the tears began to trickle down my cheeks. What could have prompted him to act in this way? After everything we had experienced together, all the affection we had exchanged, this is how he decided to respond. Wiping away our recollections, obliterating it all? I retrieved my phone, dialing Charlie's number for what seemed like the 100th time in the last few hours. The voicemail answered, delivering the same icy, indifferent message that awaited me. With a sense of urgency, I picked up the phone and called his office, yearning for any information I could find. The receptionist picked up the phone, and I inquired whether Charlie was present. "Oh, he's taking the week off," she remarked nonchalantly, as if it were trivial, as if he hadn't just shattered my world. "He won't be back until next week." He was steering clear of me. And not only me, he was evading everything. Subsequently, I reached out to my mother-in-law. She answered after a few rings, but there was a chill in her voice that caused my chest to constrict. "Could you help me find Charlie? Do you know his whereabouts?" She took a moment before responding. "He has shared everything with both me and your father." "I understand, Susan, but I believe it would be best for you to allow him some distance." "Where could he be?" I urged, my voice trembling. "I must have a conversation with him." "I can't tell you," she replied sharply. "He's made his decision." The line fell quiet for a brief moment, and just as I was about to respond, she interjected, "Susan, I believe you need to prioritize yourself at this time. I apologize." Then she ended the call. I was in disbelief. I felt a deep connection with my in-laws, as if they were my own family. I found myself entirely excluded. They were aware, and they had decided to support Charlie. They didn't even allow me the opportunity to clarify. By Wednesday of that week, calls from Trevor began to come in. I let all of them go to voicemail. choosing to ignore their calls. I ultimately succumbed, tuning in to his voicemail messages. He insisted that I call him right away. In his final message, he mentioned that Charlie reached out to my fiancée. He revealed all his secrets to her. "Susan, it's essential that you address this issue. Kindly give me a call." I called his number, and Trevor answered on the first ring. "Susan, where have you been hiding? This requires your attention for correction. Charlie shared with my fiancé. And now she's bombarding me with questions. You must inform her that it isn't accurate. It was merely an error. Devoid of any significance." His voice cut through the air, filled with rage and urgency. "Do you recall the promise you made? We reached a consensus. It was meant to remain a secret. I never intended for this to unfold." I murmured gently, attempting to clarify. My intention was never to cause pain to anyone. I never expected Charlie to respond in this way. I never anticipated it would reach this level. Trevor paused, lost in thought. He let out a sharp breath. "You must convey this to her. Susan, it's essential to declare that it wasn't genuine. It was merely an error. And now it's finished. I've already explained to her that it's all a fabrication. Yet she refuses to accept it. It's important that she hears it from you." I took a deep breath, shaking my head slowly. "That's not something I can manage. Trevor, I cannot deceive. It occurred. It was genuine. I cannot convince her of something that isn't real." A lengthy silence hung in the air before Trevor finally broke it. "Everything is being ruined. I mentioned it to you. I made a promise to her. You're only complicating things further. This entire situation is on you. You just couldn't resist, could you? Do you really believe that Charlie is the only one who will suffer from this?" I couldn't deceive to rectify his situation. "I'm being honest with her. Trevor," I spoke, my voice quivering. "I regret to inform you that I'm unable to do that. You've really let things get out of hand." "Susan," he retorted, his tone now icy. "I'm at a loss as to why I placed my trust in you." Just as I was about to reply, he ended the call. The connection was lost. Moments later, my phone buzzed once more. It was his beloved. I allowed it to ring twice before finally picking up. The stillness on the other end of the line weighed heavily. "Greetings?" I spoke, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. She remained silent for a prolonged moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was devoid of warmth. Utterly flat. "I'm not sure what you expect from me, Susan," she replied, "but I can't bring myself to trust you. I have no desire to receive any further communication from you." She left no room for my reply. A click resonated, and the call was abruptly terminated. The ordeal continued. The following day, I entered the workplace. As I stepped into the HR director's office, a wave of dread washed over me. I thought it would be a laid-back visit with a friend of mine who worked there. But as I stepped inside, I realized it wasn't only her present. At the table sat the HR manager alongside the director of security. A sense of unease washed over me instantly. The HR director gestured for me to take a seat, her demeanor reflecting a serious and professional air. "There's nothing quite like the warm exchanges we used to share. Susan," she began, "we must address an important issue. A report has come to our attention claiming that you and Trevor engaged in an affair during work hours, utilizing company resources. What is happening?" "That's not," I faltered. They remained quiet, observing me intently. "We understand, but we need to hear your side of the story," she said, her tone now more like that of a guiding mentor. I nodded, still sniffling, and attempted to compose myself. I understood that deception was not an option for me. I confess that Trevor and I were involved," I said, my voice trembling, "but nothing occurred during work hours." "It wasn't that way," she acknowledged with a nod, diligently jotting down notes. "It's more than just the hours we put in. Susan, it is essential to recognize that when salaried employees embark on business travel, every moment of the trip is regarded as work time. Even if you weren't engaged in tasks during the evenings, it still counts as company time." I had not considered that before. "The hotel room," she elaborated, "being funded by the company, is regarded as a resource of the organization. According to the information we've received, it appears you utilized it for personal purposes." A wave of pallor washed over me. "Indeed, we took up residence in the hotel," I confessed. "However, I did not utilize company resources for any personal matters." "I did not," At that moment, the HR manager began to speak. What are the plans for dinner on the second night of the trip? Did you and Trevor share a meal together? My face felt like it was on fire. I paused, contemplating my next move. However, there was no escaping it. Indeed, we did. I spoke softly. We dined at a restaurant close to the hotel. Did you enjoy a glass of wine with your dinner? I took a deep breath. Indeed, 2 glasses. Who covered the expenses for it? The HR director inquired. I confessed that Trevor covered the cost. It is against company policy to use another employee's company card for food or drinks. Susan, I was unaware. I began to elaborate. However, she interrupted me softly. We comprehend. However, the guidelines are unmistakable. It's not about purpose. It's concerning the breach. She glanced at the HR manager before returning her gaze to me. Considering everything, Susan, we have made the decision to provide you with a final written warning regarding the violations attributed to you. Regarding Trevor, his employment will be ended. I simply gazed at her, struggling to comprehend the words. I anticipated a form of retribution. But not like this. It's unfortunate that Trevor lost his job. However, is that you, Trevor? I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. He is facing termination? The HR director acknowledged with a grave nod. Absolutely. In light of the gravity of the violations, we found ourselves with no alternative. He has been dismissed, effective immediately. I want to clarify that any notion of receiving special treatment due to my gender is unfounded. Trevor would have encountered the same repercussions for his choices. Yet he ventured even deeper. He faced consequences not only for my actions. He was dismissed for his conduct that crossed the boundaries of what was permissible. He had prolonged his visit for another day without any valid reason. That was intentional. It was intentional. What stung even deeper was that he had covered all the costs himself. He charged the flight change fee, the hotel, all his meals, and even 2 bottles of wine, expenses that should never have been billed to the company. Everything was orchestrated by him, all for the sake of being with me. Now, he finds himself without a job, and his fiancée has walked away. Everything is a result of my actions. For my part, any aspirations for advancement seem unlikely after everything that has transpired. The next Monday at the office, Charlie had me handed divorce papers at the reception desk. The receptionist informed me that a delivery was awaiting my arrival at the front desk. I longed, with all my heart, that it was from Charlie. Perhaps he was attempting to connect. Perhaps he was poised to offer me another opportunity. As I approached, a man came into view, holding a box of flowers, and my heart raced with unexpected excitement. I assumed they were from Charlie. Perhaps this was the indication I had long anticipated. As I signed for the package, the man presented me with a box of flowers, and then, maintaining a completely expressionless demeanor, he handed me a set of divorce papers. Madam, you have now officially received the divorce papers. The words initially failed to resonate. I simply gazed at him, sensing the warmth fade from my cheeks. The man turned and walked away, yet I remained frozen in place. The information was beyond my grasp. Tears streamed down my face as I stood there, exposed before the crowd. The tears flowed uncontrollably, accompanied by deep, wrenching sobs. A wave of guilt, shame, and regret washed over me, overwhelming my senses. I hurriedly exited the office and decided to take the remainder of the week off. Over the course of the next 7 months, I explored every possible avenue to salvage my marriage. I dispatched messages, crafted letters, and recorded voicemails pleading for some form of reply. Anything that indicated Charlie's willingness to engage with me, to attempt to mend our relationship. Yet, there was an absence, silence, no recognition. Charlie turned away, choosing silence over conversation, not even a single time. Not even when I attempted to connect with him via mutual friends, family, or even his parents. Silence enveloped the space, the eerie stillness. Now that the divorce is final, I am left with nothing but memories. I cherish and long for the gentle soul he once was, the man I fell for, the individual who had consistently exhibited patience and understanding. Yet, I am aware, beneath the surface, that man is gone forever. My actions have turned him into a harsh person, and although I cling to the hope that he might one day soften and we could reunite, That hope is slipping away rapidly. A friend recently shared that Charlie has been involved with one of our old neighbors from the townhouse community we used to call home. I had shared a casual friendship with this woman, and the betrayal cut deeply. I was utterly shocked that she would betray me like this. I never imagined I would experience these feelings for someone I once considered a friend. I understand that I must face the consequences of my actions. Yet, I never expected Charlie to respond in this manner. I believed that, in some way, time would mend the wounds. I was aware that my confession held a fragile possibility of ending our relationship. Yet I never anticipated it would dismantle everything so thoroughly. In the stillness of the day, I often yearn for a sight of the man I once cherished. The man I adored. Yet, whenever I attempt to envision him, it seems as though I'm pursuing a phantom, a recollection of something that has now vanished. I constantly remind myself that I am worthy of this. Yet the pain in my heart lingers on. It feels like I've shattered something beyond repair. I wish for him to understand the depth of my remorse. I long to turn back time and erase all the hurt I've inflicted. Yet it's impossible. This regret will linger with me for all my days. My love for him remains unwavering, regardless of the distance that separates us.